right. Hi, everybody. Who wants to start?
So first, your response to the police today.
Oh, I'm really glad that we had the opportunity to have that discussion. It certainly sounds like the new chair of the Police Commission and the chief understand the issues very well that have been concerning Calgarians and are committed to making them work. As I've said before, we're very lucky to live in a place where politicians don't run the police, where citizen volunteers in the Calgary Police Commission run the police. But we as politicians also have to make our expectations clear. And our expectations are that we increase safety in everything we do, and that every single person who joins the Calgary Police Service has the opportunity to have a great career, regardless of their gender, their background, their ethnicity, their race. And I'm really happy to hear the great alignment among the chief and the commission chair on this. What's also clear is we've got some work to do with the province. We've got to reform ACERT a little bit to make sure that it is more efficient, it has the resources it needs to do its job, and we can communicate with people appropriately. And we've got to make some changes to the Police Act to ensure that it represents 21st century human resources principles.
What do you think of the police chief going in favor? Are you in favor of them having somebody from outside looking at some of the force issues?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. As the chief said, you never know if the amount of shootings that we've had this year is a blip or something that is a longer term trend, but either way it's troubling. And as Toronto did, having a third party take a look at some of the police procedures to make sure that we are not inadvertently making the problem worse, I think is a very good idea.
So what sort of changes do you need to be made to ACERT?
Oh, there's a long-standing issue around the ability to which ACERT can communicate versus the police service can communicate. To be frank, I'm not sure what the answer is here, but I'm glad that it has been surfaced for us to discuss it. And we also need to determine, as with every provincial agency, if they're properly resourced for the amount of work that they're doing.
Also, by having the ACERT muzzle the police when incidents occur, does that lead to all sorts of wild speculation?
Well, I'm not really down on one side of this issue or another. I know that there's a real concern among some members of the police service that the inability to speak during an investigation does lead to speculation. On the other hand, we have to protect everyone involved. So I'm not quite sure what the answer is, but I think that smart people got to get their heads around it.
Or the fact that ACERT does only look at one case at a time seems to be, do you think that needs to change? Or?
No, I think that's really important because each case has its own set of circumstances, and it's important that they be looked at individually, not as part of some broader trend.
Other topics, folks?
That's for policy, for us policymakers to think about.
Cycle tracks this afternoon.
Maybe. Evening, tomorrow.
I guess
depends on when Helen finishes her socks.
Are there amendments that you want to see to what is being recommended by
I'm actually putting forth, I think the chair of the committee will put forth a different set of recommendations because I just found that the recommendations that were in that report were a little bit confusing. So I've asked him to put forth recommendations that more clearly spell out what council's decision is. So for example, a recommendation to make the cycle tracks permanent that council can vote up or down on. A recommendation to alleviate some of the parking, loading, and transit issues, again, that council can vote up or down on, and a recommendation to not spend any money making the temporary infrastructure permanent, again, the council can vote up or down on. I may add a fourth one, which is around 12th Avenue specifically, which is I really do want to see the team work with the Green Line team, especially if council agrees to a 12th Avenue alignment for the Green Line today, about what does that mean for the cycle track. If it stays, can it stay on 12th Avenue? If the surface road is chosen, my guess is no. So we need to figure out what happens at that point.
Do you think someone else will bring forward an amendment to remove them completely? That's not one of the ones.
Well, the first one, if they vote against it, then that has that effect. So I'm trying to give them something. It was funny because when I read the report recommendations, I thought, well, if I wanted to remove them, how exactly would I vote on these recommendations? They were pretty confusing. So that's what I tried to do at the very end of committee and failed. That's because we ran out of time. But I'm always interested in giving council a very clear choice so that the public knows exactly what people's intent is.
What's your reaction to the Manning Center's report?
I mean, it's very clear that a big chunk of it was incorrect. Their very first tweet said, administration changed the recommendations without telling council. And then they sent a follow-up going, oh, they did tell council, but it was in very small print. We read our reports. We knew that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How's it going? Are you getting the clarification you want?
Personally, I had three issues that I really wanted to push hard on. One was safety. To me, the only reason for building these cycle tracks was to build safety so people felt more comfortable commuting. I was very mollified by the answer that while some types of collisions have increased on the routes, overall cycle collisions are significantly down across the core because people are gravitating to these cycle tracks, making it more safe for cars and cycles in other places. So that made me happy. Second question is 12th Avenue. And are there tweaks that we can actually do to make life a bit easier for cars on 12th Avenue so there's not as much lane jogs? I am not convinced that the lane jogs actually make things safer. And it sounds like there are tweaks we can do that, so that makes me happy. Third question is 8th Avenue, which has 8th Avenue on the west side near the U of C downtown campus. Appears to have among the lowest ridership. And so I heard today that we've added back almost all of the parking, which is great. And in fact, that is the piece of the cycle track that's been most impacted by the economic downturn. Cars are down and bikes are down in that area because it's very, very office oriented. So I'd like to see some changes there, but I can probably live with leaving that one there, understanding that we're going to keep an eye on it and try and make it better.
Right. And your impression was that the big part for you, said that may have influenced my opinion. You said it's the accident injuries that seems.
Correct.
Yeah, tell me about
Correct. So while we may have a very slightly higher rate of collisions, we have a significantly lower rate of injury collisions across the downtown. I didn't know that before today, and that actually helps me a lot with my own decision. You know, any shooting like this is a tragedy, and of course the police are working hard on this one. They will continue to investigate as they always do. But I want to highlight something here, which is, I of course am feeling very touched by this because I know this gentleman very well. His family came to this country as refugees from Uganda. They came with absolutely nothing. And he became one of the most important philanthropists in our city. From the Mamani Opera Center to supporting causes locally and internationally, heck, to sponsoring the Mayor's Lunch for Arts Champions. He and his family are incredibly important to this city and have done great things to try and give back to this country that have given them so much. So all of our thoughts and prayers are with Riaz and his family today, and I know he's going to pull through. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the cycle tracks are staying. How do you feel?
I feel pretty good about this. You know, I was always the one in the middle. I was the one who insisted on doing this as a pilot project, who insisted on having lots of data. And I think as we look at the data, more people are cycling. We've lowered the percentage of injury collisions throughout the core. And we've had pretty minimal impact on automobile traffic. So I'm quite pleased with where council ended up today. We have to do some tweaks. We've got to do a better job on 8th Avenue on the west side. We've got to do a better job on 12th Avenue around the jogs. I do not agree with the people who said the lane jogs and the wiggles actually slow down traffic and they're safer. I think they're just irritating. So if we can fix that to put more through lanes of traffic, I think that's a good outcome. But I'm very pleased with where we've ended up, and I think that it really reflects what I've heard from citizens. You know, people kept saying this is controversial. But it's controversial, I think, in the way secondary suites are controversial, which is it's controversial around the council table. And in fact, as it turned out with the final vote, not that controversial around the council table. I mean, I received about 850 emails in my office. 825 of them were from supporters. And they were not form letters. They were heartfelt, thoughtful letters about the difference these tracks have made in their lives. So, you know, I always say, I'm not a guy who rides a bike. I'm not sure I know how to ride a bike. But it's not for me. The point is it's for people in the city to be able to live in the community the way they want to live and have choice to do so. And to me, this is a great example of doing that, and I'm very pleased the council overwhelmingly supported them today.
What do you think about that change in the vote from 8 to 7 to 10 to 4?
Well, you know, we heard certainly from Councillor Collier-Urquhart, for example, that she was skeptical before, but she looked at the data, as did I. And I, you know, going into council today, I knew there were a couple of concerns about 12th Avenue and about making sure we get that right vis-a-vis the Green Line decision. So I suggested adding that fourth recommendation, and I think that helped a lot of people as well think, okay, this is where we are and this is how we want to move forward. I will tell you that my pool, as I listened to the debate, was 11-3, so I was off by 1.
What about the future? Are there going to be more lanes being converted?
Oh, why are you asking me hard questions? I've had enough of these debates. You know, we have to improve connectivity, and certainly we have to improve safety. And I know that, for example, we're not going to build a separated cycle track on 3rd Avenue But 3rd Avenue could be a little bit more bicycle friendly without taking out any lanes. I think that that's something we can look at. And certainly we are missing a north-south connection on the east side. There was never any appetite to do 1st Avenue Southeast / McLeod Trail, but I would like to see the future of 3rd Street and 4th Street Southeast in the East Village as the new library is built, to see if one of those makes sense for some connectivity there as well.
There's talk of the Green Line and 12th Ave. How far in the future are we talking about construction on 12th Ave for the Green Line?
We heard from administration that it's years away. I don't think that's actually true, because if our funding comes into place over the course of the next several months, then early construction will begin as soon as 2018. I can't answer the question of when that will lead to construction on 12th Avenue, but we're not talking a decade. All right, thank you.
Thank you.